What's going on, everybody? Absolutely brand new to YouTube, but I thought I would kind of pitch in because why not? I've always wanted to, and I do love me some World of Tanks and some other games, so I thought I might just kind of find my own way into this community and test it out and see how it all goes. So today I wanted to have a look at or do a premium tank review of the Nameless. Now this is a really weird tank, and I'm pretty certain it's exclusive to the Asia server, which is what I play on because I'm from Australia and that's where my ping is lowest. So the Nameless is from the Valkyrie or something Chronicles. I can't quite understand what it comes from. I really am not sure about this tank. I have seen it on Reader Status Report and other places saying that it does have some pretty good armor and some quite strange quirks about it. So I do want to talk about it. I am going to purchase this tank and do a full tank review. So yeah, I mean, stay tuned. So let's have a look at a comparison between the AMX M49, M449 Liberté, which is like the French premium heavy tier 8, which was recently introduced, and the T26C5 Patriot, which is kind of like the underdog of all tier 8 premiums. It's considered to be generally the best at the moment. And then we've also got the Defender here, the Russian Defender. So if we have a look at the stats of all this tank, we can see that it actually has joint best DPM with the T26E5P, the Nameless. Now, there's no image here. I can't actually see a model of it just as yet. Maybe that's something that they'll introduce onto Tanks GG into the future. I'm not 100% sure, but you can see that it has pretty good DPM. So if compared to the other tier 8 heavy tanks, we're looking at a tank that's not at all underpowered in terms of its raw damage output. Its penetration is the lowest of all, but not by much. We're talking about 12 at the most, 12 millimeters of penetration. So it does have pretty good penetration for its tier, considering it's a heavy as well. I mean, if you look at the T32 with its Top Gun, that's 198 millimeters of penetration. So you're not going to be lackluster in this tank in terms of tanks you're going to see on the battlefield when you interact with other tanks. Its damage is actually not bad at 300, so it's there with the Liberté. What's the caliber of this gun? It's an 88. It's an 88 millimeter gun, so it's actually not terrible at all, considering that the Liberté has a 100 millimeter gun, and that does the same amount of damage. Now we can see that its rate of fire is better, in fact, than the Liberté, so it's got the same DPM as the T26E5P and the Patriot, and it also has the same damage as the Liberté, yet it has indeed more rate of fire, so you're going to be able to see more raw output. Now, the one drawback of this tank that I've noticed, and I don't think that it's too much of an issue, but it may be for some, is that it has a slower shell velocity than the other tanks. So we're looking at about a 10% decrease compared to the others at 900 meters per second. So while it's not terrible, it's not as good, and it means that you are going to have to lead your targets a bit more than you will have to in the Liberté or the T26E5, which does have 8 PCR rounds as standard, but it does have a lot of ammo. It has a higher ammo capacity than the Liberté, slightly less than the T26E5P, but quite a lot more than the Defender, which doesn't carry quite as many rounds of ammunition. So you're definitely not going to run out of ammunition on the battlefield with 20,400 damage points that you're able to do. Now, its gun handling is where it really excels. So we're looking at really good, well, not really good, but very good for a heavy tank anyway. Dispersion value of 0.35, great aiming time of 2.2 seconds, and its dispersion while moving, while the tank is traversing, while the turret is traversing, is absolutely fantastic. This is something that, I mean, it's not, laser like the high tier Russian medium tanks, but this is really good for a tier 8 heavy tank. So at 0.17, you're going to be able to snap in some shots pretty well. It's also got good gun depression. Doesn't have the best, but at 8 degrees, you're certainly not lacking. Yes, you get 10 degrees in the T26 and the Liberté, but the 8 degrees is going to serve you really, really well. Its elevation is a little bit on the lacking side at 15 degrees, but It might mean that you're going to have to wedge yourself up against a rock or whatever to be able to shoot targets that are above you. But in the end, you're looking at a pretty damn good gun handling on this tank. Now with the mobility, this is also really, really good. So 50 kilometers forward, I mean, not really, really good, but it's good. 50 kilometers forward, does have a 570 horsepower engine, but its weight is quite low at 34 tons compared to the other tanks especially, which means you shouldn't go ramming people really, but I mean, you can, lower tier mediums, maybe some higher tier mediums, but something not higher tier heavy tanks. Having said that, your power to weight ratio is 16.76, which is pretty good. Certainly better than all the other tanks in this comparison. You can see that the next best is the Patriot at 15.17. So, you really have a great opportunity to get to places in this tank, especially considering it also has the lowest terrain resistances. That is really low, 0.96. That is fantastic. So this tank is going to be able to outpace the other tanks easily and get to where you need to be on the battlefield, in reasonable time. Now, its turret traverse and tank traverse aren't the best in this comparison, but they're okay. 27 is not amazing, but it's not terrible. You're not going to be able to gun it around your enemies and get around them very easily, but you're not going to have a necessarily difficult time to do this as well, especially considering that its terrain resistances are so low that in the end, the traverses of this tank isn't necessarily too bad, but it's not great. Now, the armor on this tank is ridiculous. It is, quite frankly, amazing. Now, it doesn't have like the same kind of crazy angling you'll get on the Defender, but it has raw, heavy armor that is quite well rounded if you look at the tank itself. So if we go over here and we can see in this image, now I know this is a rendered image, but you can see that it has quite rounded armor. It is a bit flat, but its raw thickness is insane. So we're looking at 220 millimeters at the front, 80 at the sides and 80 at the rear. So this tank can side scrape. You're not going to be overmatched, and it has really strong frontal hull armor and also the turret armor. Wow, 240 millimeters thick at the front, 150 millimeters thick at the side. Absolutely fantastic. You got track armor. I mean, that's good. So all that means is that it's going to be harder for the enemy to blow off your tracks with track armor of 40. So the spaced armor as well is 40. So it all adds to the side of this tank. Like, this tank is very well armored. It's got a standard view range. It's certainly not the best. It's not terrible. But I mean, the T26E5 with 390 really does outshine it. But otherwise, it's quite standard amongst its tier. So how about we go have a look at the tank now inside the garage? Alright guys, in the garage now, let's just have a look at this tank. It's odd, it's weird. I don't know if I like it very much, but to each their own. I just think it's just a strange looking tank, which I don't think fits the dynamics of World of Tanks in terms of it's just so unreal. And I know that sounds stupid because I mean, like, if you look at the Type 4 Heavy, on a lot of other tanks, they weren't real tanks, but this is based off an anime tank, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty certain. So, yeah, look, first impressions are, I don't know how much I like this addition to World of Tanks, but it's there, so I've got to live with it anyway. So, immediately off the bat, you can see that this tank is actually quite tall. It's quite narrow, but it's tall and long. Type 4 Heavy for comparison. It's almost as tall. Tog for comparison, a bit longer, but Tog's a big tank. This is a tall tank, which is not great because you're going to get hit in the side quite often. Pardon me, it's quite easy to do, really. Now, another thing you can see about this tank is that it's got a cupola at the top. So we just got one cupola up there. It is quite strong, but I don't think it's crazy strong. I don't know because I can't see a proper model of this tank. I can't see a 3D model yet, so that's a bit of a bummer, but I know that this bottom plate has been really easy for other people to penetrate, so that's something you've got to watch out if you're playing this tank. And if you're shooting at this tank, then by all means go for that lower plate as long as it's not being hidden, because it was penetrated, for example, at angles such as this by the same Nameless tank that was shooting me. So at 220 penetration, this lower plate can be penetrated at the best of times, so got to be worried about that. Also, I've noticed the gun depression. Now, I don't know if it's 8 degrees all round or if it's 8 degrees to the side, but indeed, the gun depression has actually been quite bad in-game. I've struggled to get my turret down, and I think I don't know if it's because the gun depression at the front is not great. I mean, the clearance you can see in the model is really not much, so... yeah, I don't know at this point, but that's been a real tough thing for me. I don't think it's as good. I think it'd probably be like 5, 4, 6 degrees. I mean, it could be 8, and it just could be a really bad player, but yeah, I don't know. Been really struggling with that. Now, another really big thing you can see is, look at these characters. They're all anime characters. Again, not sure how much I like that. In-game, they scream at you. Like, it's so odd. It's such a weird experience. It's like, you literally have anime characters, screaming words I don't really understand. Maybe that's something that could be changed with language. I don't know if it turns off language features, but I certainly haven't changed from, English across all crews. But, I mean, it's a quirk. It's a quirk that some people might like and a lot of people might not. But having played this tank a few games, really bad ping, like 400. So I'm not going to show you one of my replays. It doesn't have a great lower plate, but does have a very good upper plate, as to be expected. 220 millimeters, well sloped, well angled at the best of places. So this tank does have good armor, and its mobility is really, really good, but we'll see that in a game coming up in a moment. Now, also with equipment, definitely get vertical stabilizers. You kind of want that on any tank it's available on. It just helps with the dispersion and aiming, makes the aiming quite a lot better, 20% better dispersion, so that's fantastic. Also would go with ventilation. I don't have enough credits at this point to get it, but if you can get it, do it. It will help by adding 5% to all the crews. And now a big thing I forgot to mention is that these crews, they come 100% with Brothers in Arms. So that's a massive selling point. And if you are looking to get a new tank with already good skills and you want to kind of branch out, then this is for sure a way to go. I don't think you can actually transfer these crews over to other tanks. So that's something to be wary of. I don't think it's interchangeable between the Type 4 Heavy, for instance. But there's still, a really good crew. And I don't think you can put crews into here, so just be wary of that as well. I'm not 100% sure that's something you should double check. Maybe it's something I'll double check a bit later, but just be wary of that, because that can be a bit of a factor in using this as a crew trainer, because it's not really a crew trainer. It's more of just a novelty, good tank, really. Alright guys, here's a game. Now this isn't me playing because I have really bad ping at the moment, haven't had enough time to play, but this is a mastery game. It's by Luckman, Luckman95, so thank you for that, Luckman. You feel privileged to be on my first ever video, but just look how quick this tank is. I mean, we got the Lorraine here, and we can see that this tank is keeping up pretty damn well. Not quite at its top speed at 50, but it's not bad at all. It's really zooming up the hill, and it's not falling too far behind, and it's certainly going faster than the other tanks that's left behind. What has it left behind? Tiger P, IS, T30. I mean, all relatively slow tanks, but it's not struggling. It's certainly no speed demon, so don't get that idea in your head. But it's not slow, I guess. I don't know how else to put it, really. We can see just how tall it is, though. I mean, we don't really have many comparison tanks, but you can see it's quite a large tank. It's got a large profile. Yeah, I mean, again, do I like how this tank looks? I don't know. It looks like it's almost got a tiger turret on the top, but it's just I don't know if the non-genuine factual basis of this tank is something that I really, really like, but it's not necessarily something that I think we have to worry about too much for now. It's in the game. There's not much you can do about it. People are going to buy it regardless, but some people might really like it, and to each their own, but I just don't think it's great. But going back to the game, we can see that 2 tanks have already been taken out on Luckman's team, the IS and the Type 62. Now both are tier 7 tanks, but both are still quite pivotal. There we go. One shot into the Nameless. I mean, 150 millimeters of penetration there on the side, but not good enough. Bounce there. So, I mean, the side of the tank is quite well armored at 80 millimeters. Going back, we're going to try and shoot at the side again. Just detract. Again, 80 millimeters. It's going to be hard to go through. Can we get through that little cupola on the top? No. So now you can see there that it is quite well armored, and Luckman does bounce a shot there as well. Oh, over-angled. Yes, over-angled. So Luckman is able to go through the side of the tank there. So we can see that although it does have good armor, it's not necessarily incredible. Now, where did that shot go in? Let's have a look. And those characters. So a shot went straight in through the bottom. So we can see that the lower plate is not very well armored, but everywhere else really is. But again, those characters, kind of annoying, I must admit. There we go. He's trying to side scrape here. Luckman. Can he get through the lower plate? No, he doesn't quite aim there. I think it's just a matter of the tank being new. Oh, here we have a Patriot. But he's going to go for the other Nameless as well. And he's taken it out. Got a really annoying T-49 on the other team. And a talking lady. Please stop. I mean, seriously, it's really frustrating. I don't know if for you guys, but my lord. Tracked again. Or tracked by his own team member, so quite lucky there, Luckman. We have quite a few enemies on the team. It's now even. Oh my gosh. I don't know what she's saying, but it's so frustrating. It's blocked another shot. Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Went through the bottom of the T-26 E5, so not having much issues in terms of penetration. Bounced another shot. He's really taking quite a few hits here. Hit another shot in. I don't know what. I'm just so struck by the fact that she keeps saying these things. I've never heard of it. It's quite annoying. But you can see, you know, KV3 there is gone. Their team is picking apart the other team pretty quickly and pretty easily. Side of the turret of the target P there, gone straight through. So far, Luckman has done 2,776 damage. Really good. He's blocked 1,620 damage. That's really good again. But he has taken quite a lot of damage as well. He's lost half his hit points, so this tank is not impenetrable. Don't get the idea that it is. You can see all the shots that have been shot at his lower plate have gone in. It isn't very strong. You can also see there that the gun depression isn't quite good over the front there. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's 8 degrees. At the front, I think it might be 8 degrees at the side where there's more clearance. But again, fast tank. It is able to shift really quickly, and I think that is a major benefit of this tank. It is going to be able to relocate effectively across the battlefield and be able to take really strategic positions to be able to help carry the team over. Now, you can see the team is winning 6-3. So, I mean, the game isn't necessarily in the bag yet, but it is pretty close, it looks like. That's really took a shot there. But yeah, just, again, taking the view of this tank, I mean, it is quite odd. Now, I do apologize for my graphics, not amazing. Oh, base is being captured. So this whole western flank has been completely left to the open. So shame Luckman, I should say, is going back and trying to defend the base, and he's not having any trouble shifting back there. What could be in the base, though? Quite a lot of the enemy tanks haven't actually been spotted yet. You can see the other team is also catching up. It's just the AMX 1390 there. Can be a nasty tank if that gets around him, and he is firing APCR. So Luckman has got to be very careful here, but he seems to be quite lucky. Good DPM, able to take out the AMX 1390, and so many people talking. Oh my lord. Wow. What are they saying? I'm so interested, but I'm also so sick of it, to be honest. Good aiming time, good accuracy, shown right there. I mean, I don't know how much more you can say about it. Taking a shot in at the T-29, misses. Shot goes a bit right there. RNG, what can you really do in this circumstance? T-29 bounces, so you can see that Luckman is using really good side-scraping abilities here. Really taking advantage of the 80 millimeters of armor this tank has on the side of its tank. Goes a bit high, that shot hits the turret, but you can see here that the Lorraine 40T is going around. Oh, I wouldn't stop in front of the gun, Mr. 40T, but He's gotten away with it almost. Just gets hit. Now the scores are still in favour of Luckman's team. We can see that he's on. His team's winning 9-6, so still not in the bag, but his team's doing pretty well. We can see he actually blocked 2 shots as well, if you look down the bottom left, of APCR rounds from the AMX 1390, which is fantastic. That's really, really good. So none again bounce on the bottom, but at least, you know, his armor has been holding up, which is, I mean, to be expected. It does have 220 millimeters frontal armor, this tank. It's just ridiculous. Spotted a WZ off Panzer IV. Able to snipe in a shot there. Low's a bit roll. Roll's a bit low, I should say, but nonetheless, gets a shot in. So Luckman here is going around to flank the enemy team, try and get some spotting in for his team and do some more damage. And look how much damage he's done. 3,750 with 1,494 spotting damage. And he's spotted the charioteer here. Let's see if his team can get in a few shots as well as him. Shoots it in the back, tracks it. Yes, and he's able to get another one and take him out for his 3rd kill of the game. Fantastic. Well played, Luckman. But you can see that he's going off and he's going out spotting. Now, again, this tank doesn't have good view range, 370 meters, but it's not terrible either. Now, I don't think Luckman spotted either of those 2 tanks there. And that tank, the Panzer IV, the Rheinmetall. Oh, gosh, look at that. Track's taken out, has taken a pretty big hit. Now, Artie was buffed in the last patch. Oh, please, ladies. Or lady. Doesn't quite spot the end of the game. And I think this is the end of the game, effectively. The replay has been complete. So what do I think about this tank, having played it myself? Admittedly, not very many games, and not very well either. And look, I think that it's a good tank if it's your first tank, or if you are into this, maybe this television show, I think that's what it is, but into this anime in general, then go for it. I don't necessarily think it's better than the Patriot or the Defender, considering it does have that quite large weak spot at the bottom, which is very easily penetrated by other tanks. It's also quite high profile and is easy to be shot in the side. Having said that, if you want something that's a bit niche, if you like the screaming characters, I personally really don't, but some people might, then yeah, I mean, maybe this would be a good addition to your repertoire of tanks. I certainly have quite a large amount, but I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. It is my first video, so there are going to be a lot of things that I'm going to have to change going into the future. I will be using a better system and as often as I can. I am a student, so I do travel around a bit, so this is why I'm using my laptop right now, but I do want to get this video out. I thought, why not get into YouTube now? Why not do something that I really like, which is playing games and making videos as well. I find quite fun. I've done it a bit in the past, but never for World of Tanks. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you did like it, be absolutely incredible if you could like it, subscribe, or dislike it if you didn't like it, or leave me a comment and tell me why you didn't like it. But thanks guys for watching. Until next time, I don't know when that will be. If this video gets good views then or good feedback, then I'll be sure to make a new one very, very soon. Thanks guys.